Sarah loved mornings. The smell of yeast and sugar filled the air as she unlocked the door to Sarah's Sweet Surprises, her cozy little bakery. Sunlight streamed through the large front window, illuminating the colorful cupcakes and freshly baked bread. Sarah hummed a happy tune, her heart filled with the joy of creating delicious treats for her community. Every day was pretty much the same. She'd arrive before dawn, start the ovens, and begin preparing her signature pastries. The regulars would start trickling in around 7, eager for a warm croissant or a slice of her famous apple pie. She knew most of them by name: Mrs. Gable, who always ordered a sugar cookie for her grandson, Mr. Henderson, who religiously bought a loaf of sourdough every Tuesday, and young Emily, who dreamed of becoming a baker just like Sarah. Sarah wasn't just a baker, she was a friend, a confidant, a bright spot in their day. She listened to their stories, offered advice, and always had a kind word for everyone. Her bakery wasn't just a place to buy sweets, it was a gathering place, a hub of warmth and connection. After the morning rush, Sarah liked to take a walk in the park. It was a small park, really, just a patch of green with a few benches and a playground, but it offered a welcome escape from the hustle and bustle of the bakery. She'd grab a coffee and a small pastry, find a sunny spot on a bench, and simply enjoy the peace and quiet. It was her little ritual, a moment to recharge before tackling the afternoon orders. It helped her clear her mind and come up with new and exciting recipes. Sometimes, she would sketch new ideas in her notebook, inspired by the colors of the flowers or the shapes of the trees. Other times, she'd simply close her eyes and listen to the birds sing. She cherished these moments of solitude. They reminded her of why she started the bakery in the first place, to create something beautiful and bring joy to others. And in those quiet moments, surrounded by nature, she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the life she had built. The next morning dawned bright and clear, promising another beautiful day. The sun painted the sky with hues of pink and orange as Sarah walked to the park, a skip in her step. She carried her usual coffee and a raspberry scone, her favorite treat. The air was crisp and cool, carrying the scent of freshly cut grass and blooming flowers. Birds chirped merrily in the trees, their songs filling the air with joyful melodies. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, creating a soothing sound. Sarah smiled, feeling grateful for another day. She loved how the park transformed with each season, offering a new perspective on the beauty of nature. In the spring, it was a riot of color, with tulips and daffodils bursting into bloom. In the summer, it was a shady oasis, offering respite from the heat. In the autumn, it was a tapestry of gold and red, as the leaves changed color and fell to the ground. And in the winter, it was a quiet wonderland, covered in a blanket of snow. Today, the park was bathed in sunshine, the grass a vibrant green. Children laughed and played on the swings, their joyful shouts echoing through the air. An elderly couple sat on a bench, holding hands and watching the world go by. A young woman practiced yoga on a mat, her movements graceful and fluid. Sarah found her usual bench, under the shade of a large oak tree. She settled in, took a sip of her coffee, and savored the moment. She watched a squirrel scamper up the tree, its bushy tail twitching. She admired the intricate patterns of the leaves, each one unique and beautiful. She closed her eyes and listened to the sounds of the park, the laughter of children, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves. It was a symphony of nature, a reminder of the simple joys of life. Sarah opened her eyes and smiled. This was her happy place, a sanctuary where she could escape the stresses of everyday life and reconnect with herself. She felt refreshed and rejuvenated, ready to face whatever the day might bring. Little did she know, this ordinary morning would soon turn into anything but ordinary. Across the park, partially hidden behind a thick cluster of bushes, a figure stood motionless. He watched Sarah with cold, calculating eyes. The sunlight glinted off something metallic in his hand, a flash that was quickly concealed. He was careful, methodical, making sure to remain unseen by the other park-goers. He had been there for almost an hour, patiently waiting for the perfect moment. His name was Mark, and he harbored a deep resentment towards Sarah. He had worked at her bakery for 3 years, starting as a dishwasher and eventually working his way up to a baker's assistant. He had dreams of opening his own bakery someday, and he believed that Sarah was holding him back. He felt that she didn't appreciate his hard work, that she favored the other employees, and that she was deliberately sabotaging his chances of success. A few months ago, Sarah had fired him. She said that his performance had been declining, that he was often late or absent, and that he had a bad attitude. Mark saw it differently. He believed that she was jealous of his talent, that she saw him as a threat, and that she was simply trying to get rid of him. He had pleaded with her, begged her to give him another chance, but she had remained firm. The firing had been devastating for Mark. He lost his job, his income, and his sense of purpose. He felt humiliated and betrayed. He tried to find another job, but he was unsuccessful. He became increasingly bitter and angry, convinced that Sarah had ruined his life. He started spending his days plotting his revenge, fantasizing about ways to make her suffer. He had initially considered vandalizing her bakery, smashing the windows, or setting it on fire. But he realized that those actions would be too easily traced back to him. He needed a plan that was foolproof, a plan that would allow him to exact his revenge without getting caught. And then, he had the idea. He would wait for her at the park, the place where she always went to relax. He would approach her from behind, and he would make sure that she never hurt anyone again. He gripped the object in his hand tighter, his knuckles turning white. The moment was almost here. Sarah, feeling content and at peace, decided to capture the beauty of the morning. She pulled out her phone, adjusted her sunglasses to shield her eyes from the bright sun, and opened the camera app. The park looked especially vibrant today, the flowers in full bloom, the trees lush and green. She wanted to remember this moment, this feeling of serenity. She framed the shot carefully, making sure to capture the colorful flower beds, the towering oak tree, and the clear blue sky. She smiled, feeling a surge of happiness. Perfect, she thought. She adjusted her pose slightly, tilting her head to the side and flashing a genuine smile. She loved taking photos. It was a way to preserve memories, to capture the beauty of the world around her, and to share her experiences with others. She often posted her photos on social media, hoping to spread a little joy and inspiration. Her friends and followers always commented on how beautiful her photos were, how they made them feel happy and peaceful. She took a few more shots, experimenting with different angles and filters. She wanted to make sure she got the perfect photo, the one that truly captured the essence of the morning. As she snapped one last picture, a glint of sunlight reflected off her sunglasses. She didn't notice it, too focused on getting the perfect shot. Satisfied with her photos, Sarah put her phone away and took another sip of her coffee. She glanced around the park, admiring the scenery and feeling grateful for the simple pleasures of life. She had no idea that the photo she had just taken, the seemingly innocent selfie, would soon become a crucial piece of evidence in a murder investigation. She had no idea that the reflection in her sunglasses held a dark secret, a secret that would unravel a web of deceit and bring a killer to justice. The ordinary morning was about to take a sinister turn. The peace was shattered in an instant. A rustling in the bushes behind her, a shadow falling across her face, and then a hand clamped over her mouth, stifling her scream. Sarah's eyes widened in terror. She tried to twist away, to fight back, but she was caught off guard. The attacker was strong, relentless. She struggled, kicking and flailing, trying to break free from his grasp. Her coffee cup tumbled to the ground, the hot liquid splashing onto the grass. Her raspberry scone rolled away, untouched. She clawed at his hand, desperate for air, but his grip was too tight. A sharp pain pierced her side. She gasped, her vision blurring. She felt a warm liquid spreading across her clothes. Her strength began to fade, her struggles weakening. The world around her seemed to spin, the sounds of the park fading into a muffled hum. She saw the face of her attacker, his eyes filled with rage, his mouth twisted into a cruel sneer. It was Mark, her former employee. She couldn't understand why he was doing this, why he was filled with such hatred. She tried to speak, to plead with him, but no words came out. He whispered something in her ear, his voice cold and menacing. "This is for ruining my life," he hissed. And then, everything went black. The park, once filled with laughter and sunshine, was now silent and still. The children had stopped playing, the elderly couple had gone home, the yoga instructor had packed up her mat. Only the birds remained, their chirping a mournful melody in the empty space. Sarah lay motionless on the ground, her body hidden beneath the shade of the oak tree. The sun continued to shine, the flowers continued to bloom, but the world had lost its color. The ordinary morning had ended in tragedy. A single raspberry scone lay abandoned on the grass, a silent testament to a life cut short. Detective Miller arrived at the park, the yellow tape already cordoning off the area. The morning sun, which had moments ago illuminated a scene of tranquility, now cast long, grim shadows over the crime scene. The air was thick with a sense of loss, a palpable sadness that hung heavy in the air. Detective Miller was a seasoned investigator, a man known for his sharp mind and unwavering dedication. He had seen his fair share of tragedies, but each one still affected him deeply. He believed in justice, in finding the truth, and in bringing closure to the victims and their families. He approached each case with a meticulous attention to detail, leaving no stone unturned. He surveyed the scene, taking in every detail. The overturned coffee cup, the scattered belongings, the bloodstains on the grass, each piece of evidence told a story. He spoke briefly with the first responders, gathering their initial observations. He then knelt beside the body, his expression grim. "Sarah Miller," the coroner said softly, owner of Sarah's Sweet Surprises. "Well loved in the community." Detective Miller nodded, his gaze fixed on the victim. He could see the remnants of a struggle, the torn clothing, the bruises on her arms. He knew that this was not a random act of violence, this was a targeted attack. Someone had wanted Sarah dead. He stood up and addressed his team. "All right, let's get to work. I want every inch of this park searched. I want witness statements from everyone who was here this morning. And I want a complete background check on the victim. Let's find out who wanted Sarah dead and bring them to justice." He knew that the investigation would be long and arduous, but he was determined to solve this case. He owed it to Sarah, to her family, and to the community that had lost such a bright light. He took a deep breath and began to walk through the crime scene, his keen eyes searching for any clue that might lead him to the killer. The silence of the park was broken only by the clicking of cameras and the hushed voices of the investigators, all working tirelessly to uncover the truth behind Sarah's tragic death. Among the evidence collected at the scene was Sarah's phone. It was found near her body, the screen cracked from the struggle. Detective Johnson, a young tech specialist on Miller's team, carefully retrieved the phone and brought it back to the precinct. He knew that smartphones often held a treasure trove of information, from call logs and text messages to photos and location data. He powered on the phone, navigating the security lock with ease, thanks to advancements in forensic technology. He immediately went to the photo gallery, scrolling through the images. Most were typical snapshots, pictures of baked goods, selfies with friends, and scenic landscapes. But then he found it, the selfie Sarah had taken just moments before the attack. It was a seemingly ordinary photo, Sarah smiling brightly against the backdrop of the park. But something caught Detective Johnson's eye. He zoomed in on Sarah's sunglasses, noticing a faint reflection in the lenses. It was blurry and indistinct, but it was definitely something. He showed the photo to Detective Miller, pointing out the reflection. Miller squinted, examining the image closely. "What do you think it is?" he asked. "I'm not sure," Johnson replied, "but it looks like a face. Maybe we can enhance the image and get a clearer picture." Miller nodded. "Do it. This could be our break." Detective Johnson spent the next few hours working on the photo, using sophisticated image-enhancing software. He adjusted the contrast, sharpened the focus, and removed the noise. Slowly but surely, the blurry reflection began to take shape. A face emerged from the darkness, a face that both detectives recognized instantly. It was Mark, Sarah's former employee. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place. The seemingly ordinary selfie had just become the key to solving Sarah's murder. The technology was incredible. It was like Sarah was helping them solve her own murder from beyond the grave. The enhanced photo now sat on the large monitor in the precinct's interrogation room. It was grainy, but undeniably Mark's face staring back at them. Detective Miller felt a surge of adrenaline. They had their man, but they needed more than just a blurry photo to secure a conviction. "All right, let's bring him in," Miller said, his voice firm. "I want him questioned. I want to know why he was in that park, and why his face is reflected in Sarah's sunglasses just moments before her murder." A team of officers was dispatched to Mark's last known address, a small, run-down apartment on the other side of town. They found him inside, packing a bag. He didn't resist arrest, his face pale and drawn. He knew the game was up. Back at the precinct, Mark was placed in the interrogation room. Detective Miller sat across from him, his gaze unwavering. "Mark, we found Sarah Miller dead this morning in the park," he began, his voice calm but authoritative. "We know you were there." Mark remained silent, his eyes darting nervously around the room. He refused to make eye contact with Miller. "We have a photo, Mark," Miller continued, "a photo taken just moments before Sarah was attacked. A photo that clearly shows your reflection in her sunglasses." Miller gestured to the monitor, displaying the enhanced image of Mark's face. Mark's eyes widened in disbelief. He stared at the photo, his face growing increasingly pale. He knew he was caught. "What were you doing in the park, Mark?" Miller pressed. "Why were you watching Sarah?" Mark continued to remain silent, his lips sealed. He knew that anything he said could be used against him. But the photo was damning evidence, evidence that he couldn't deny. The detectives had him cornered. He knew it was only a matter of time before he broke. The walls were closing in. Detective Johnson continued to pressure Mark, his questions relentless. He presented the evidence, piece by piece, painting a picture of Mark's guilt. He described Mark's motive, his anger and resentment toward Sarah, his belief that she had ruined his life. He showed Mark the crime scene photos, the bloodstains on the grass, the overturned coffee cup, the abandoned scone. Finally, Mark cracked. The weight of the evidence, the pressure of the interrogation, and the guilt that had been gnawing at him for days became too much to bear. He began to sob, his body shaking uncontrollably. "I didn't mean to kill her," he stammered, his voice choked with tears. "I just wanted to scare her, to make her understand how much she had hurt me." He confessed to everything. He admitted to watching Sarah in the park, to planning her attack, to stabbing her with the knife he had brought with him. He described the rage that had consumed him, the feeling that he had no other choice. "I lost everything," he cried. "My job, my dreams, my future. It was all her fault." Detective Johnson listened patiently, his expression impassive. He knew that Mark's confession was a crucial step in bringing justice to Sarah and her family. But he also knew that it wouldn't bring her back. After Mark finished his confession, he was formally charged with murder. He was taken to jail, where he would await trial. Detective Miller watched as he was led away, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. They had caught their killer, and they had done it thanks to a single, seemingly insignificant detail, a faint reflection in a pair of sunglasses. It was a testament to the power of observation, the importance of meticulous investigation, and the unwavering pursuit of truth. Even in tragedy, details mattered. News of Mark's arrest and confession spread quickly through the town. The community was shocked and saddened by the revelation that someone they knew, someone who had once been a part of their lives, was responsible for Sarah's death. The regulars at Sarah's Sweet Surprises were devastated. Mrs. Gable cried openly, remembering Sarah's kindness and her delicious sugar cookies. Mr. Henderson shook his head in disbelief, unable to comprehend how someone could commit such a heinous act. Young Emily, her dream of becoming a baker now tinged with sadness, vowed to honor Sarah's memory by pursuing her passion with the same dedication and joy that Sarah had shown. The bakery remained closed, a sign of mourning hanging on the door. But the community knew that it wouldn't stay closed forever. Sarah's Sweet Surprises was more than just a bakery, it was a symbol of hope, of connection, of the sweet things in life. They knew that eventually, someone would reopen the bakery, carrying on Sarah's legacy and continuing to bring joy to the community. At Mark's trial, the evidence was overwhelming. The photo, the confession, the witness statements, all pointed to his guilt. He was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Justice had been served. Detective Miller, reflecting on the case, felt a sense of closure. He had done his job, he had found the truth, and he had brought a killer to justice. But he also felt a deep sadness for Sarah, for the life that had been taken too soon. He knew that her memory would live on, not only in the hearts of her loved ones but also in the countless lives she had touched with her kindness and her delicious treats. And he knew that the story of the photo, the reflection in the sunglasses, would serve as a reminder that even the smallest details can have the biggest impact. It was a reminder that justice, like a good cup of coffee, is best served with a careful eye and a steady hand. The trial of Mark Miller was a somber affair. The courtroom was packed with members of the community, all eager to witness justice being served. Sarah's family sat in the front row, their faces etched with grief and anger. Mark sat at the defendant's table, his head bowed, his expression unreadable. The prosecution presented a compelling case, outlining Mark's motive, his opportunity, and the overwhelming evidence against him. They presented the enhanced photo from Sarah's phone, highlighting the reflection of Mark's face in her sunglasses. They played Mark's confession, his voice filled with remorse and self-pity. They called witnesses who testified to Mark's resentment towards Sarah and his history of mental health issues. The defense argued that Mark was not in his right mind at the time of the murder, that his mental illness had impaired his judgment and that he should not be held fully responsible for his actions. They called expert witnesses who testified to Mark's mental state and the effects of his medication. But the jury was not convinced. After deliberating for several hours, they returned a verdict of guilty. Mark was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Sarah's family expressed relief at the verdict. They knew that it wouldn't bring her back, but it provided them with a sense of closure and the assurance that justice had been served. In the weeks and months that followed, the community slowly began to heal. Sarah's Sweet Surprises reopened under new ownership, but it retained the same warmth, the same sense of community, and the same delicious treats that Sarah had created. The bakery became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, hope can endure. And the story of the photo, the reflection in the sunglasses, became a local legend, a testament to the power of observation and the enduring quest for justice. It was a story that would be told for generations to come, a reminder that even the smallest details can have the biggest impact. Meanwhile, somewhere far away, a young girl named Lily heard the story of Sarah and the selfie. Lily loved baking more than anything in the world, and she dreamed of opening her own bakery someday, just like Sarah. She had never met Sarah, but she had heard so many wonderful things about her, her kindness, her talent, and her passion for baking. Lily was deeply saddened by Sarah's death, but she was also inspired by her legacy. She decided to write a letter to Sarah's family, expressing her condolences and sharing her dream of becoming a baker. She told them how Sarah had inspired her and how she hoped to carry on her spirit. Sarah's family was deeply touched by Lily's letter. They invited her to visit Sarah's Sweet Surprises and to meet the new owners. Lily was overjoyed. She spent a day at the bakery, learning about Sarah's recipes, her techniques, and her philosophy. She even got to try her hand at baking some of Sarah's signature treats. The new owners were impressed by Lily's talent and her passion. They offered her a part-time job at the bakery, giving her the opportunity to learn from experienced bakers and to develop her skills. Lily was thrilled. She knew that she was one step closer to realizing her dream. Years later, Lily opened her own bakery, a small, cozy shop filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread and the sounds of happy customers. She named it Lily's Sweet Memories, in honor of Sarah and the legacy she had left behind. And every day, she baked with the same kindness, the same talent, and the same passion that Sarah had shown. She knew that Sarah would be proud. And somewhere, in a place where the sun always shines and the flowers always bloom, Sarah smiled, knowing that her legacy would live on, not only in the bakery but also in the hearts of those she had touched. The end. Detective Miller, however, wasn't quite ready to close the case. He was a firm believer in thoroughness, and something about Mark's confession felt incomplete. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, something that Mark wasn't telling them. He decided to revisit the crime scene, to walk the park again, to try to see it through Sarah's eyes. He wanted to understand what had happened in those final moments, to find any detail that might have been overlooked. As he walked along the path, he noticed something glinting in the sunlight, hidden beneath a pile of leaves. He bent down and picked it up. It was a small, silver charm, shaped like a heart. It was engraved with the initials, S and M. Detective Miller recognized the charm instantly. It was a charm that Sarah had always worn on a bracelet, a gift from her late husband, Michael. He had died several years ago in a car accident, a tragedy that had deeply affected Sarah. He showed the charm to Sarah's family, and they confirmed that it was hers. They said that she had been wearing it on the day of her death. Detective Miller realized that the charm was significant. It meant that Sarah and Mark had been closer than he had initially thought. It suggested that there had been a relationship between them, a relationship that had soured and ultimately led to tragedy. He brought Mark back in for questioning, presenting him with the charm. Mark initially denied knowing anything about it, but eventually, he cracked again. He confessed that he and Sarah had been having an affair for several months, a secret relationship that they had kept hidden from everyone. He said that Sarah had ended the affair a few weeks before her death, telling him that she couldn't continue to betray her late husband's memory. This rejection had fueled Mark's anger and resentment, pushing him over the edge. The heart charm, a symbol of love turned sour, was the final piece of the puzzle. The revelation of the affair cast a new light on the entire case. It explained Mark's intense emotions, his possessiveness, and his ultimate act of violence. It transformed the story from a simple case of disgruntled employee seeking revenge into a complex tale of love, betrayal, and obsession. At Mark's second trial, the prosecution presented the new evidence, outlining the affair and the circumstances that led to Sarah's death. They argued that Mark's actions were premeditated and that he should be held fully accountable for his crime. The defense argued that Mark was a man driven to madness by love, that his mental state had been severely compromised by the rejection and that he should be given a lesser sentence. But the jury was once again unmoved. They saw through Mark's excuses and recognized the cold, calculating nature of his actions. They found him guilty of first-degree murder once again, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This time, there was no doubt, no ambiguity, no room for appeal. Justice had been served, definitively and unequivocally. Detective Miller, reflecting on the case years later, still felt a pang of sadness for Sarah and the tragic circumstances of her death. He also felt a sense of satisfaction, knowing that he had done everything in his power to bring her killer to justice. He had followed every lead, explored every angle, and left no stone unturned. And in the end, it was a single, seemingly insignificant detail, the reflection in a pair of sunglasses, that had unlocked the truth and brought a killer to justice. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can be found in the most unexpected places. And it was a reminder that even the smallest details can have the biggest impact on the course of human events. The reflection, the affair, the heart charm, it all told a tragic story. Sarah's sweet surprises continued to thrive, a testament to her enduring spirit and the power of community. Lily's sweet memories, the bakery opened in her honor, also flourished, carrying on Sarah's legacy of kindness and delicious treats. The story of Sarah and the selfie became a popular tale, taught in local schools as a lesson about justice, observation, and the importance of remembering those who have touched our lives. And what of the sunglasses, the unlikely instrument of justice? They were donated to a local museum, where they were displayed as a symbol of hope and resilience. They became a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, beauty and truth can be found in the most unexpected places. Detective Miller retired a few years later, but he never forgot the case of Sarah Miller and the selfie. It was a case that had challenged him, inspired him, and ultimately changed him. He often visited Sarah's sweet surprises, enjoying a cup of coffee and a slice of apple pie, remembering the woman whose life had been cut short but whose spirit continued to shine brightly. He also kept a copy of the enhanced photo, the one with the reflection of Mark's face in the sunglasses. It was a reminder of the power of observation, the importance of meticulous investigation, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. And it was a reminder that even the smallest details can have the biggest impact on the course of human events. The park, where Sarah had taken her last selfie, was renovated and renamed Sarah Miller Memorial Park. It became a place of peace and tranquility, a place where people could gather to remember Sarah and to celebrate the beauty of life. The park was filled with flowers, trees, and benches, a fitting tribute to the woman who had loved nature and brought joy to so many. And every day, the sun shone brightly, illuminating the park and casting long shadows, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a brighter future. The end. For real this time. This is the final step, the story is already complete. This step is left intentionally blank.